So the president's there, and what did you make of Kim Jong-un? His translator said, it's very courageous, a courageous decision, Mr. President, talking to our president, to begin this dialogue.
Well, that's another positive sign that the second meeting between these two men may bear fruit. I think that the president is cautiously optimistic, but the goal here is to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula, something that other presidents failed to do, put an end to 70 years of war in Korea, and to try to thaw relations so that we're all safer. It was President Obama who told President-elect Trump that his _1 challenge would be North Korea. So rather than ignore it and naively look the other way, this president is engaging Chairman Kim. Look, the sanctions remain in place. That hasn't changed. We're watching, but this president, as you know, is willing to engage with leaders around the world to greater ends. And the denuclearization, the verifiable and complete, irreversible denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula benefits everyone. Look how transparent they are. You've got, I don't know, throngs, dozens and dozens of press from around the world, certainly from this country. Right. The city seems cleaned out of press right now. They're watching and covering it, and I only hope that they focus on the issues at hand and didn't fly halfway around the world to ask questions they could have asked here.
Right. Well, you know, as Ed mentioned at 10 o'clock this morning, Michael Cohen is going to be appearing before the House Oversight Committee. Of course, he's doing that now because shortly he's going to be going to prison for lying to Congress. But he does, Kellyanne, make all sorts of allegations about the president. Hush money, that he told us to lie and break the rules and everything else. We don't know what to believe.
I think the president is on the verge of historic talks and negotiations about the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. And I don't know how the two are put on the same plane, really, that they're given the same kind of gravity and weight. I know that many people today will want to split the screen and show the two scenes. But one is the President of the United States, our Commander-in-Chief, trying to continue the conversation about denuclearization. And the other is someone who the president spoke very strongly about yesterday, very negatively, in a statement through his press secretary, Sarah Sanders. I'll let that speak for itself. These hearings, also remember, nobody's being cross-examined. It's not a court of law. I would note the last time that this person was before Congress, he admitted that he lied, and I think people will see that. But again, I don't know that it should. Well, I do know. It should not be given the same weight. I mean, I think what happened here in Washington this week that was truly remarkable is you had 44 United States Democrats in the Senate, United States Senators, Democrats, who voted to legalize infanticide.
Right.
And I don't want to hear the word women's health. I don't ever want to hear them again think that they can get away with saying they are a voice for the voiceless. They are standing up for the vulnerable. We're going to be there to haunt them with this vote every time they turn around and pretend that this was about women's health. The baby's already born.
Right.
What about women's health? It's got nothing to do with it. They are for infanticide. They've been for late-term abortion, taxpayer-funded abortion, midterm pregnancy abortion, sex selection abortion. When you don't want another daughter, fine, just find out the sex of the baby and then exterminate it. Guess what? Now they're for post-birth abortion. And that is the biggest thing that rocked Capitol Hill this week. And the president is absolutely right. That will go down as one of the worst votes in the history of Congress.
Right.
And we will be there to remind them of it.
Here's Michael Cohen released a 20-page statement, which he's going to read out loud starting at 10 o'clock. And one of the remarks is like this. He said the president was a presidential candidate who knew that Roger Stone was talking with Julian Assange about a WikiLeaks drop of Democratic National Committee emails. He said he listened to it on the speakerphone while Roger Stone talked about this and warned the president. What's your reaction to that?
I was a campaign manager and never participated in a phone call like that. And so that's very curious, isn't it? The campaign was on an entirely different floor. Donald Trump, the candidate, was flying around the country most days. You saw it. You covered it. Other networks who gave him a ton of coverage covered it. And so it's just always curious to me why the campaign manager for the successful part of the campaign is not privy to any of these conversations, and yet people who weren't part of the campaign are out there puffing around saying, I was doing this, I was doing that. And I want to make another point that I've made to the president privately, and it's this. There were two kinds of people around him, particularly in that last part of the campaign, and those who were pretending to be around him during the last part of the campaign. One were the people who knew he could win and said so publicly. CEG, me, and a few others, said so publicly every single day. We're going back to Wisconsin. We're going to Minnesota. We're going to do 7 stops tomorrow. Here are the states. Mrs. Trump is going to Pennsylvania today because it has 20 electoral votes, and it does not have early voting. It has absentee voting, but it's day-of voting. And on and on and on. There were people who knew that Donald Trump and Mike Pence could win that election fairly and squarely without cheating, without cutting corners, without doing
right. But Kellyanne, which is so interesting,
and then there were people who thought, and then there were people who thought, I guess, that they had to puff around and make themselves seem more important, no names mentioned. And so I think everybody should look at that for what it is.
So it's so interesting because in his remarks, he said the president never thought he would win, and he told Michael Cohen that this is going to be the greatest infomercial for my brand and my company you can imagine. Is that the candidate you knew?
No, it's not the candidate I know. It's not the president I've worked for since day one. And further, Michael Cohen was on TV famously in a clip with CNN's Brianna Keilar pushing back when she basically said the polls all show that Donald Trump is not going to win. And he pushed back, saying he will win. What polls? He is ahead. He's doing a great job. Mr. Cohen was with the president on the campaign trail a couple of times, one time in Cleveland, for an African-American event, actually, that gets a lot of coverage in the clips because there aren't a lot of other clips from the campaign trail, I suppose. But so this is somebody who believed that President Trump could win. President Trump certainly believed he could win. But President Trump was also, as a deal maker, I will tell you, he was the last one on election night to see it coming together because he knows you can walk away from the table and everything can fall apart at the last minute. So he's cautiously optimistic. He saw the polls,
Kellyanne,
the election results coming in.
Why is Michael Cohen's story so different at this point?
Well, you have to ask him that. You have to ask him that.
Why do you think?
You have to ask him that, and I hope he's asked that today. Remember, we're not in a court of law. There's no cross-examination. There's no jury trial.
There are Republicans who are just as upset at him as perhaps you are.
And they will ask the questions. Well, I didn't say I was upset at him one way or the other. I can be confounded. I can feel consternation short of frustration. But again, I just don't see why this gets the same weight as what the president is trying to do halfway around the world as the president of the United States. That aside, I think that we should really reflect on the people who are out there saying, I knew this or I knew that or I was part of this or I was part of that. 2 of them are facing criminal charges. Well, this one's already been convicted. I guess he's been sentenced. Another one's facing criminal charges. And remember, the president had around him then, as he does now, people who believed in him as the candidate, as the president, who don't need to be there, don't need to be here. But it's a shrinking group that either has survived to this point and has thrived, or could get through the door in the first place. And we can reflect more on that. But look, remember too that I think the president's statement yesterday is instructive. If the last time you've been before this body, you admitted that you lied. Then people are going to know that and see that.
Yeah, you don't know.
And look, I think it's a human tragedy whenever somebody goes to jail. I get that in these circumstances, but at the same time, folks, don't lie to Congress.
But he's trying to grab the president with him. Kellyanne, he's trying to grab the president with him. He's called him a racist and a cheat.
He can't.
And a con man.
He can't. The media try to do it every single day, ladies and gentlemen. And where are they? This president continues to thrive. The 2020 field looks absolutely ridiculous. They're for infanticide. They're for Medicare for all, which means less Medicare for seniors, socialized medicine. You got Bernie Sanders won't even tell Maduro to go, which our vice president went down to the Lima Group and said Maduro's got to go. We support Mr. Guaido as the president. I mean, the opposition party, I guess this gentleman is part of it now, the opposition party is flailing and failing because they can't beat this president on the issues. And he's not going to be able to take down the president with him. And I know that those who were skeptical of him before will give him a hero's welcome today. But respectfully, it's beside the point. How is it relevant? How is it relevant to what the president's trying to do in North Korea and elsewhere?
And you know, to the larger point, whatever he is going to say today, he's already told Mr. Mueller.
Yeah. And let me say something, too, about the Mueller investigation just quickly. I see, he's got this, he's got that. Folks, don't lie to Congress. If you lie to Congress, you lie to investigators.
That's the problem. We don't know which Michael Cohen to believe. We don't know.
But it's not just him, Ainsley. In fairness to the Mueller investigation, other people have lied. And they're getting ensnared in that. Folks, Mom, Grandma were right. Don't lie.
All right, Kellyanne,
right.
we want to talk to you about the National Emergency Declaration. The House voted yesterday, as you know. No surprise. It's the Democrats. They're not for this. They don't want the president to get that money. But what did shock me, there are 13 Republicans that voted to block the national emergency, 13 that sided with the Democrats. What are your thoughts?
Fine, but it's still veto-proof. So there aren't enough votes, actually, to overcome a presidential veto, which he has promised.
Why aren't they united like the Democrats are?
Well, 13 defections, it doesn't mean they're not united. Well, look, but look at what unites the Democrats. The Democrats are united on things like infanticide. So if that's what unity compels, I'm not sure that we want to be unified on every issue such as that.
Right.
But on this one, I think there are a number of them who are concerned about the precedent, but they should not lose sight of the fact as to why the president did this. Two things. One is the president knows his first solemn duty is to keep us all safe and secure that border, and it's not been done over any number of years. He's listening to the Border Patrol agents and the DHS and the ICE folks who tell him what they need. Number two, the president waited for Congress to do its job. It's failed to do its job since he's been president on securing the border, and it's failed to do its job for decades. And so he waited for them.
And that includes the Republican House. And that includes the Republican House.
Brian, there's no question the Republican House failed, and they failed us in securing the border, but they also failed to make good on the promise to him that he would get that money for the wall. They completely lied about that.
Kellyanne, exit question. Yesterday, Joe Biden was at the Biden Center at the University of Delaware. Sounds like he's really close to deciding whether or not he's going to get in. It sounds like he's going.
Said his family wants it.
Yeah. What do you think?
Did he get a round of applause and a standing ovation at the Biden Center in his home state? Wow. A 50-state strategy must be close by. Look, I can't blame Vice President Biden for wanting to run, but he's going to have to be held to account for the Obama-Biden economy, the Obama-Biden foreign policy, national security failures, the Obama-Biden appropriation of our nation's health care, where 9 years after Obamacare, Biden care was passed, about 28 million Americans still don't have care. He's going to be held to account for all that did not happen while he was vice president and be asked about that. I'm sure he looks at the field of, the unimpressive large field, albeit large field, of 2020 candidates and thinks, I should jump in there. You saw that Bernie Sanders raised over $6 million, I guess, in the first day or so after he announced. So I guess there is a market for septuagenarians who want to run for president in the Democratic primary. But at the same time, my question for Joe Biden is, are you sure that President Obama and the Clintons are going to endorse you? Or are you sure you're going to go in there with a strong hand and the distinction against the rest of the field? This is a party that's looking for fresh and new, as they did in 2008. When they denied Hillary Clinton the nomination, and she looked even less fresh and less new.
Yeah, that's a good point, because the Obama administration told Biden not to run, and we also know that the Obama team met with Beto O'Rourke. So
yeah, the central question for Joe Biden is, do you have the president's you-served endorsement to run for president? I think that's a central question that he should be asked. Okay. But look, it looks like he wants to run against Trump the way everybody else does. His tone, his tweets, it's not going to work, folks. The media try it every day. And there he is, sitting pretty for re-election.
Gotcha. Kellyanne Conway, thanks so much.
Thank you.